Test. Is it working? Okay.
Hey, it's concern, okay?
We work outside all our lives and never made really you know.
All right. We're ready to start again. State your name, please, and your address.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Plan Commission. My name is Joe Calderon. I'm an attorney with offices at 11 South Meridian, Indianapolis. We represent the end user of this project. We're working in coordination with your County Economic Development Director, Mike Dellinger, who's with us today. Also with me today is Todd Cunningham and Matt Stipula. They're with the civil engineering firm of EMH&T. So we do believe we'll have everybody to be able to answer questions that you may have regarding this project. So without further ado, I think we'd like to kind of walk through this PowerPoint, try to keep it short and sweet. We know a lot of people want to talk. We heard from many of them. We held a community meeting last week, so we probably understand their questions, and there's one element within our presentation that came as a direct result of those meetings. So, for starters, we've named this PUD the Morgan County Data Center Plan Development 1 because we are seeking primarily a zoning classification that includes data center. That definition is nowhere in your UDO, and we felt that it was important because this is really our use, that we wanted to define it and describe it to you all as a community and as county leaders, so that you can make an informed decision about what you're buying into. And we say technology issues, we all have devices in our suit pockets or purses, whatever. All of our devices rely on data centers. Pull up a video, texting, all of that information gets collected, stored in data centers, and relayed out. It's also used for what's coming in terms of technology and needs. That includes artificial intelligence. There's all kinds of reasons for data centers, but the primary reason is people. We have devices that rely on this. We believe that this is important for central Indiana. And why do we choose this particular site? Let's go to the next slide. Because this site, as you heard, is 390 acres. It's hard to find huge amount of land, but more importantly, this land has significant power already running right through the middle of it. So we think that geography in this particular site, and working with our utility service provider partner, AES, who turned us onto this site, makes a lot of sense. This is exactly where you want to plan uses like this. The other reasons that we believe very strongly in this location is based on your own feedback and your own work and the volunteers that work with you with your recent updates to your comprehensive plan. So we know that Morgan County has always had a history of bouncing back and forth between, do we do zoning, do we not do zoning? How do we manage growth, do we want growth, et cetera? Well, the latest version of the comprehensive plan answered that. And it really figured out a pretty good balance. It proposed to have growth opportunities in certain areas to take advantage of both I-70 and I-69, and areas that had natural beauty, natural resources, maybe not so much growth. So we believe, and we're very grateful, and you'll hear it from Laura later, that our proposal for this use does meet the objectives of the comprehensive plan for smart growth, for growth in the right locations within the county. So what we've done is, in our PUD, particularly, we've limited the uses to 3. We default to the I-1 light industrial standard, but we limit ourselves to data center, research and development, light manufacturing. We got rid of warehousing and distribution. We understand the site constraints as far as access. We didn't want the warehouses that you see on the I-70 corridor bleeding down into this area. This particular use will not have nearly the same kind of traffic impact. So when we look at zoning as technicians, and I'm not a planner, but I'm an attorney that's practiced in land use for a long time, look at a whole bunch of things as part of our toolbox. We look at existing zoning. And in this particular area, you find a little bit of everything. You find some commercial, you find some existing industrial, you find PUD residential, you find ag, of course. And we kind of look at all of those things in conjunction with the comprehensive plan, the site characteristics, and we make decisions and recommendations, and we write our requests to bodies like you and county commissioners based on those things. And we believe that after doing the work, not only on the land use side, but preliminary engineering, that this site makes a lot of sense for the PUD. The PUD works for the benefit of the community because it allows us to draw standards that we think beat your UDO standards. And that was really important to us, and we try to convey this to the neighbors. You could see there's a number of owners that are involved in this project that are not applicants, but they've all consented, or their property is under contract by the end developer. So there are many folks here that are part of the community that have a vested interest in seeing this through as well. You can kind of see the constraints. Here's what I was getting to in terms of standards-wise. So you can see your I-1 table in terms of things that are what we call development standards in the ordinance that regulate setbacks, height, etc., lot coverage. And what I really like to focus on more than anything else, if you look about 2/3 of the way down and you see the front setbacks along public right-of-way, you see 50-foot setback under your default I-1 standard. We're tripling that. Think about that. We're tripling that. And that's a minimum guarantee that we're providing in the ordinance. Not only that, but within that 150 feet, and we've got it on our concept plan that's later on in the ordinance. You can see the green areas. It's labeled 150-foot bermed landscape buffer. That's very important for the community and for the neighbors, some of which they're going to object no matter what. Some might be interested to understand what the 150-foot buffer looks like. You can see it on the left. It's going to be bermed, at least 10-foot berms, planted with landscaping on top of that. This is way beyond what your ordinance otherwise requires. And we knew that that was going to be perhaps the most important consideration if you chose to pass this along and for the county commissioners to pass this zoning. How do we reconcile the fact that we've got a piece of property that may not develop for pure residential use, but how do we relate to our neighbors? It's very important to us to do the right thing, and this, I think, is a very major step. So you can kind of see the configuration with 4 buildings in yellow. You can see the red lines are easements for power. We've plugged in some detention areas. There's an office building kind of in the middle. There are utility provisions within the concept plan. The crosshatched would be a utility substation, and then each of the buildings would have their own smaller substation. So all of these things, this represents a kind of a full build-out down the road. But we've put in our PUD that we're going to develop in accordance with this site plan, even though buildings may move around a little bit, but we can't move anything around and violate the principles that we set, the minimum setbacks, et cetera. So that's kind of our preliminary development plan. Next slide, please. One of the things that came out, and people, when they type in data center on the internet, they're going to come up with, well, and most cases that are industrial in nature are going to have kind of what I call nuisance characteristics as being the big issues of the day. And that is, what's it going to look like? How am I going to see it? Am I going to smell it? And am I going to hear it? So your UDO does a pretty good job on a number of standards, particularly lighting. We're going to meet all your lighting standards. Excuse me. One thing your UDO does not define very well, but is applicable in this instance, is relating to noise. You've got a county noise ordinance, but it's pretty generic in nature. It just talks about harm. We took the questions that we received last week. We've talked to our client. We are offering a 65-foot maximum decibel level at the property line. And EMH&T is involved. They can talk a little bit about how that ends up getting studied after building for future mitigation, et cetera. But coming up with a definitive standard is something that we think was very important outcome of the community meeting last week. Need to advance. Hang with us just for a minute. So as you can see, here's what sound looks like from a scaling standpoint. We're not going to say it's going to be cricket quiet every single night, but we are going to say is that we will meet a level and take actions if need be to make sure that our decibel levels are basically between conversation, dishwasher, and vacuum cleaners and ambient traffic. Pretty reasonable standard considering there are uses that would be consistently higher in terms of noise level. And our noise level doesn't even, there are times that a generator backup might need to take place that'll trigger some noise to this level. But guess what? That only happens on a maintenance basis once a month during normal business hours. This is not always 24/7, 365. But this is what we're proposing to be part of this ordinance. Next slide. Visually speaking, we obviously took some photos from around the site to show existing condition. Let's flip what the next, here's what that same view looks like following the berming and the plantings. Now this is 5 to 8 years out after plantings, but your UDO has minimum requirements for initial plantings. We're not gonna plant saplings. We will meet all of your planting requirements right out of the gate. So this is what the expectation might be looking down the road. The idea is to provide as much buffering and visual pleasing at the property lines as we can. I can't quite read where that one is. So this is 42 in Antioch. Existing, this is looking northwest. Here's what it'll look like down the road. So the idea is to really kind of screen the buildings down the road. This is Antioch Road again, looking northwest. Next slide. You can see the real effect of the berm and the height differential between Antioch and the berm line. Keller Hill and Antioch, yet another view. Next slide. Again, you can see the significant berming. That's all within that 150-foot minimum required meant that we've built into our ordinance. With that, we are happy to answer any questions. We're very grateful to have worked with Laura for the past couple of months, putting together an ordinance that she feels that she could administer. We were asking a lot of her down the road, and we're very grateful to have staff support, and we're happy to answer any questions that you as a Plan Commission may have for us this evening. Thank you.
Questions? Traffic, what's your numbers on traffic? I'll need you to state your name.
Sure. Todd Cunningham with EMH&T at 5500 New Albany Road. So our traffic numbers, we're still in the process of evaluating what we're going to generate. The program for the site, we're representing 4 buildings today on the site plan, but if you can imagine, the technology in the industry changes as frequently as it does when you buy new phones and new laptops. And based on those technology changes, it changes programmatically what we do within the site. So once we get through this process, we know we're going to have to sit down with the county and go through the traffic study process as well as NDOT for US 42, and we're prepared to do that once we're ready to take the next step. And looking forward to getting there.
If I may add this, to the best of my understanding, this is not a facility that requires semi-traffic day in and day out the way a warehouse distribution would. This is for employees. There will be some commercial traffic, but not nearly like many other industrial type uses.
So that is 100% correct. We do have some semi-truck traffic because the equipment in these facilities gets swapped out periodically to stay current with technology. We obviously will have a lot of workers on site for construction, and so that is part of the analysis that we're looking at and we'll look at with the county is what about our construction traffic, and can we get multiple construction entrances to distribute traffic and make sure that anything that needs to be done for safe movement of traffic is accounted for and accomplished.
Will those entrances be on the county roads, or will they be down on 42?
We are looking at potential for entrances from the county roads as well as 42, but obviously focusing truck traffic to the state highway side of things and more regular employee vehicular traffic on the county roads.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Hell, you got a question?
I got a little bit. Right here where site plan, you had the 2 red lines going out there. You've got a structure underneath the high power lines that's kind of blocked out, multicolor. What is that? Is that actually a temporary parking lot there, or what is that? Right there where the 2 red ones come down, you've got an area, is that?
Substation.
Yes. Substation, okay. Thank you, that's what I was wondering.
Any other question, Mr. Hill?
Do we have a construction timetable? Do we know if it's going to go over a year, 2 year, 5 years? What's the construction timetable?
So the construction timetable is somewhat determined by market conditions and demand for the space to be developed. Right now, we're projecting 5 to 8 years for build-out, but that could change, could go faster, could take longer, depending on market conditions.
Okay.
Dustin, you got anything you like?
Right now.
Jason? See everybody pondering. I'm gonna make sure you
I
got
guess,
time.
what's the outlook for sewer and water for this as of right now?
So we're working with local providers to determine what is available, and beyond the power that we've already talked about tonight, we will craft our technology that we use for cooling on the project based on what we finish discovering as we go through our detailed due diligence process. So if there isn't water available for cooling, we will use a different technology that does not rely on water. And from a sewer discharge perspective, it's the same thing. If we aren't using the water for cooling, we're not generating large amounts of discharge from cooling water, so be limited to a fairly minimal domestic flow.
So you're looking for utilities for all your, municipal utilities for all your water and sewer then? Is that what you're?
We're investigating what those options are at this point.
Anything else, Jason?
Not right now.
Bill, do you have anything?
No, what are you gonna do? I don't know how many acres are gonna be under roof, but do we have this adequately planned to get rid of all the hard surface water that's not going to enter the water?
Absolutely. And we've already done a preliminary stormwater evaluation, which is why on the site plan you saw all the retention ponds that are being proposed to comply with the requirements. And you can see with the amount of large power utility that we need for this sort of a project that there's only so much of the land we can cover anyways with this type of project to maintain the open space we need to get those utilities in. So from a perspective of intensity of land use and lot coverage, this project actually, these projects typically run between 50 and 60%, where a typical industrial is going to be 75, 80%.
Thank you.
Anything else, Bill? Bill, anything else?
No, that answered my question.
Joe, do you have any questions?
I do not at this time.
Brian, do you have any questions?
On the taxes, will there be asking for abatement or anything like that? Will you be contributing to our taxes? And how many employees at what kind of pay grade?
So there will be a separate request to talk about incentives. That'll be not through me necessarily, but there would be anticipated. The state provides a framework for these types of incentives. Typically, what would happen is contributions in lieu of taxes would go to the community. That would be significant. These proposed amount of jobs are not quite known, but can we expect 100? So for construction jobs, this would be 500 to 1,000, and then 50-plus high-skilled jobs, as well as facilities and maintenance support on a permanent type basis. And that would be for starters.
I have a question. Is there no TIF districts, no tax abatements?
No, there would There will likely be an abatement request because that's the framework that the state has
But not a
required,
TIF
not a
district.
TIF.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, just to clarify what that abatement is, the state passed it in 2019 for data centers, that they can do abatement for their equipment because they switch their equipment in and out so much. So state passed that law that they can do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Other questions? All right, we'll move on. We will move into support. You want to announce? You can announce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brett Hinchman,
Henshaw?
Brett Henshaw, would you like to speak? Are you in the room? Yeah, would you come forward? I'm sorry? Could I come in later? You want to come in later? Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move you back. Mike Marsh? Is Mike Marsh
Yeah, Mike.
available?
Yeah,
There you
here's
go.
Mike. Mike, if you would come state your name and your address for us, please.
Mike Marsh, Monroe Township Trustee, 6095 West Cook Road, Monrovia. They've already answered some of the questions for me. The big thing, I've seen the growth in Monrovia all my life, but the big concern I had was my school and the fire department are needing any money that they can get. So as far as abatements and this, you know, we kind of need to look what that's going to cost us and for how long it's going to be before they start getting some money to help pay for the taxes, because you're taking up 300 acres that we're losing taxes on at the present time. Plus, the county has bought a structure up there, so we're losing money off of it. So my big concern is what it's going to do for my taxpayers and for our school and for the fire department. Any questions?
Thanks. Any questions? Thanks, Mike.
Cast, John Hart? Passes. Brenda Lechner? Hiram Trisler?
Hiram Tristler, 110 West Mitchell, here in Martinsville, Indiana. I really don't have a dog in this fight, but I was kind of interested in data centers because I've spent 40 years in information technology, and in the past, I wished I had pushed the companies that I had worked for to come here and help lift Morgan County. I think this will be a good thing, because what you didn't talk about was, you talked about construction, but you're going to have master electricians. You're going to have information technology people to help with this crew. I hope that they're probably going to bring in their own consultants initially, because they didn't say what kind of data center it's going to be, whether it's going to be Cisco or Sun Systems or Linux. So, but that's for you all to figure out in the future. But this can be a good thing for the community, because after you build this system, people are going to have to go out and eat. And so there's probably going to be new businesses that will be developed after they develop their system. So I'll quit there. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Troy Bryant? Justin Clements?
Just a reminder, you are on a 3-minute time, and it's running right here.
Thank you very much. My name is Justin Clements, 7195 Skunk Hollow Road, Martinsville, Indiana. I am very excited about this opportunity for one main reason, the jobs. If you live in Morgan County, likely you don't work in. And this data center will bring jobs for construction, will bring jobs for maintenance. But what I'm more interested in is a long-term job opportunity. What does that mean for supporting businesses? And I would like to hear from the committee here or I would also be interested in exactly what type of paying jobs those are. I own a technology company that I started here in Martinsville, Indiana, in my basement. Today we have 170 employees, and the average income of those employees is around $100,000 a year. I would have loved to have built that company here in Morgan County, but my partners weren't on board with having that type of business, insurtech business, in Morgan County because they didn't think that Morgan County could support our needs for talent and to bring those folks to Morgan County. So the fact that a big company, which I would be very interested in knowing who they are someday, but a big company is willing to spend that kind of money and make that kind of investment in Morgan County to bring those type of paying jobs is very exciting to me. So outside of the construction, which would bring jobs and opportunities, what are those jobs? How many are those jobs on the ongoing for the next 10 to 20 years? That also brings supporting jobs. And I'm very excited about the opportunity for our children to have those jobs in the future. My first job in high school was scrubbing dishes. To know that a young person's first job could be scrubbing data and learning the future and being part of the future here in Morgan County is exciting to me. As someone that has children in our school systems today, that is what I'm interested in, is jobs, bringing hope and bringing opportunities for our future.
Next.
Mark Gradison.
Mark, you want to pass?
Okay, so that takes us through the support list of petitioners.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I wanted to come back to you. We have one that wanted to go later. Mr. Herschel? Henshaw, I'm so sorry.
Brett Henshaw, 4339 West Briarwood Road, Monrovia, Indiana. One of the questions is a noise, and you're talking about the 65 decibels. Is that with the generators running, or is that just normal 65 decibels? That is at any point. So even worst case scenario, the generators are running, you could have something as loud as a dishwasher, on the front yard, across the road from you. That sounds reasonable. That's about it.
All right,
That was
thank
a
you.
question about the noise.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our people who've signed in support of the petition. People in opposition wishing to speak, Brian Dolan.
Brian Dolan, 7228 North Baltimore Road, Monrovia. I think the secrecy and lack of answers, lack of details is kind of telling. The NDAs that people were made to sign kind of feels like it's selling us out. This can be built anywhere on that 345 kV AES line, further away from people, further away from homes, where there's more water, better water, less impact to people. These are your constituents. I really hope that you support them and not these mega businesses that, in my opinion, are not bringing the right kind of stuff to the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Diana Jennings.
Okay.
Diana Jennings.
She yielded.
She yielded.
If you didn't say Robert Burling, I'll sit down.
Adam Bales.
state my name.
Yeah, your name and
Adam
address,
Bales,
please.
12064 North Galena Place. So I do have a few questions. So obviously there's an abatement. I was doing a little research before I came here on my way back from college. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I was. So are the property taxes going to be socialized? And if so, what is the radius that they will be socialized? Along with electric costs, because obviously it's a data center, so it's going to be running a lot of large supercomputers. And I deal with those quite often at college, so I know that they take a lot of power to be able to be used. And where's that energy going to be coming from? Are they going to have to build something there? Are they going to run more lines? And what is that going to do to the people that live in the surrounding areas? And what is that going to drive up their costs? Are they going to make the anonymous user pay their fair share? Or are they going to pay it off? Because in some instances, some of the electric costs have been socialized, which I won't say my opinion. I think it's not right that a multi-million, billion even dollar company can make everyday people pay basically what they can afford. I know quite a bit of people don't have a whole lot of money to be doing that and paying a multi-million-dollar company's property taxes. What are some of the health ramifications? As you know, Anderson Orchard's pretty big. Anderson Orchard really isn't that far. I think I looked it up on my way here and it was like 3 miles, 2 something. What will that do to their offspring? I know they have bees. What will that kind of noise do to the pollination of the bees, and how will that affect them, because they are a family business? So I know they draw a lot of people every weekend. People are constantly coming to Anderson Orchard. I know they talked a little bit about decibel levels, but I feel like if you have a 50-foot building and only 10-foot berm or the whatever hills, it's really not going to cut down all that much, even if you have trees. And where's the water going to be used from? It's going to be pulled from the southern part of the county. Who's going to be paying for that? Is it going to be people in the county? They're going to have to pay for that. And then I would like to say one thing on how this is going to help the people locally. I deal with a lot of computer science people that would be running this. And it doesn't take a whole lot of people to run a supercomputer. Once the industrial engineers and the construction people get it up and running, all those 1,000 jobs, they're going to be gone, and it's going to be 20 computer science guys that are going to be running it, a few maintenance people, a few janitorial staff, and people just kind of keeping everything going. And the opportunity for the county, you have to go spend $120,000 in debt at a college to be able to even have an opportunity to work at a place like this, which I think is kind of unfair. Morgan County is really blue collar, and I respect that a lot. That was kind of why I feel like it was kind of a half-loaded statement.
Leon? Susan Kessler? No speaking. Susan, were you in the audience? No. Lauren Moore?
My name's Lauren Moore. I live at 160 Ladder Drive in Monrovia, and I'm also on the town council. The problems we're going to have with this data center is the noise. We're going to have all these neighbors that live in nice houses that's going to have this roar being constant. And so we need to make sure that we have ordinances to force them to keep that down to something that they're currently accustomed to. Number two, this has been kept sacred, but there's been a lot of rumors. And they keep telling us that the town of Monrovia is going to benefit from this, but nobody has ever approached us as the council to do anything about what we need to do to help them or prevent them from proceeding. So, my opinion, this is not a good project for the town and the community.
If you would please hold your applause, we've got a lot of people we have to get through tonight. And if we waste your time for that, it's going to take forever.
Brittany Davis.
I have to pull that mic down so we can.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Brittany Davis. I'm at 9149 North Oak Creek Drive, Mooresville, Indiana. Today, first of all, I want to say if you don't know what the water, you can't possibly recommend this. I mean, we don't have all the very important information to recommend this. And secondly, I am a licensed speech therapist, and I work with people who have hearing impairment. And I can tell you for a fact that loud noise, chronic exposure to loud noise, it causes hearing damage. Even if you don't see it immediately, it can take years. And yeah, you say 65 decibels is like a dishwasher, but if that is going constantly 24/7, day and night, it is going to cause problems. We know that this noise, this chronic noise, it can cause health problems over time. It can cause stress, cardiovascular problems. Harvard did a study on this. People that live near data centers have lots of health problems. So are you willing to sell out your constituents for some money and have them live with these problems? Have any surveys been done? Are you guys willing to look into this? And I just think that that's something really important to consider.
Thank you. Austin McKee.
My name's Austin McKee. I live at 12468 North Gasburg Road. That's just over a half mile from the proposed rezoning. I won't lie, I went into the public hearing mostly against with a NIMBY attitude, but open for the developers to talk me into support. They gave us the pros of economic development, increased tax base, a Fortune 100 company we'd want in our community to provide support, construction and full-time jobs. All those sound great. Don't expect cons in projects this large. Nothing is perfect. I was ready to hear their mitigation of the cons. I'll admit the renderings look okay after their long projection. What I do see is an underlying use of a TIF tax incentive. I would like to see them waive the ability for a TIF in the future and pay into the tax base immediately. But that's a future discussion for if the county council, it goes to the county council. I also heard them say that if they don't know how tall the buildings will be, they will make us, so they make these projections that are meaningless psychological anchors used to trick people. What you saw is not what they're building. They openly say that they don't know exactly what they're building, so they don't know the height. So that projection is not accurate. We also have the statement from them that there's ample power available at the site. That's another half-truth. Yes, the transmission at the site is available with capacity, but AES Indiana is already predicting shortfalls on their power in their IRP and paying to import power in the late 2030s. So yes, power is available, but all of this will be paying for the increased capacity these data centers will require in the future. AES is, of course, a partner. They generate more money by making capital projects and justifying new plants through data center growth. It's a perfect partnership for AES, and it's not a good partnership for Hoosiers. We also have the zoning master plan, which would give people a reasonable idea of the future. This area was planned as residential and now effectively will be industrial. We also heard that water won't leave our watershed in their last meeting. This is groundwater. It's also not the same as surface water. That groundwater pumped out will ultimately leave our watershed after it is discharged to the surface and flows down a creek into the White River. If a big drought hits like 2012 and they do go with a water-cooled technology, we're gonna have a lot of issues with pumping 1 million gallons a day out, 4 million gallons a day out. We're gonna be wanting that in the ground, not on the surface. Another thing I don't like is how they asked for written questions and promised replies and did not prior to this meeting tonight. That seems simply like they were used those questions to prepare talking points for this meeting and not genuinely plan on responding and caring about their future neighbors. This is one thing I'll leave you with. We hear a lot on the news about, and certainly most of us have seen how technology changes. If there is a technological breakthrough and data center needs plummet, what are we left with? Will this company be around still to demo their site, or will they be bankrupt? We don't know because we don't know who it is. There's just too much unknown. I stand opposed to the zoning variance because of the lack of a concrete plan from the developer. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't read the handwriting. Betsy Gass, Greg?
I'm Betsy Gaspray. I live at 13067 Bray Road in Mooresville, Indiana, but it's Monroe Township. And I was one of the ones who asked the question about the energy. Why was this site chosen over maybe an industrial site that we already have in the area of Mooresville or other places in the county? And they did say energy, and I didn't understand what that meant, but I do still ask the question, does that mean that our industrial parks in Morgan County don't have enough energy to maintain a site, an operation like this? If so, why are they industrial parks? Industrial parks are already put together to provide for the transportation and all the other heavy infrastructure items that this situation, this project needs. So my question, or I guess what I would like to leave with is, why does this site win over what we already have pre-existing and elsewhere in the county? Because it does take away from our community, and it takes away from some of the things that we have all enjoyed about it, and one of the reasons why many of us live in this part of the county. Also, lots of talk has been mentioned about the burning, and I just wasn't sure that any of those trees that I see in the picture are truly viable in central Indiana. They seemed like other kinds of trees that belong maybe in the southern part of the United States, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anya. Are you in the audience? No, okay. Tanya, I believe it's Wisniewski. Okay. Heather Kistler.
Hi, I'm Heather Kistler. I live, if you look at your map, 11509 North Antioch Road, right across the street from where this proposed data center is. My husband and I have lived there for 12 years now. When we moved in, and as long as I can remember, I grew up in Monrovia, we moved back here because of the quiet, to get away from industrial parks. We lived in Castleton. And now it seems like there's going to be one right across the street from us. I know they say that it's not going to be very loud, but if you Google a data center, what comes up are all of the noise problems that they have. They say it sounds like a leaf blower 24/7 because of how they have to cool this. And they're not even telling us how they're going to cool this. Is it going to be nuclear power if they can't do the water? This is right across the street from me. My kids are upset. They love going out, playing in the yard. They love the quiet. They love taking pictures of the sunset every night. And this is to the west of our property, so that's all we are going to see. Is this going to affect our home values? Everyone that lives along Antioch Road has a well and a septic, or a sewer, or yeah, septic system. So if they do use water, is this going to affect the amount of water that are in our wells? And then we don't want any pollution from any runoff either. This area was zoned agriculture with plans for homes in the future. This is way different than homes that are going to be across the street from where I live. I would love to retire here, live here the rest of my life, but if this comes in, I don't know that that's something that we're willing to do. I already have health problems. I don't want any other health problems that could come in from the data center, and they can't tell us if there's going to be anything like that. We don't even know who the company is that is buying. What about our natural beauty? You guys said that part of the Morgan County plan is for natural beauty to remain. What about our natural beauty? This is the only side of our house that has land that we can see that's beautiful. Okay, I think that is it. Also, the pictures that they showed you where the trees are growing, you notice that if you look at them again, there's white above those now. When they showed them to us at the meeting last week, those were buildings that you can see above the trees that they're planting. So that is just something that we hope that you will go back and take a look at, and I hope you vote no to rezoning this property. Thank you.
Terry Moore. Derek Johnson. I'm sorry, are you Terry? Okay.
Terry?
Okay.
Where the data center is going in is,
Could you state your name, please,
I'm
and give us
sorry.
your address?
Terry, 1787 West State Road 42.
Could you pull the mic down just a little bit?
Oh.
Let me hear you. There you go.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, my house, the data center is closer to 42 than what my house is. I lost my husband there. We raised our children there. We had no clue of any of this coming in. I almost had my farm sold till they found out about the noise, because it will affect the animals, and so will the lights. And I can verify for that, because on the day they had the eclipse, the pigs all went to sleep as soon as it got covered up. The minute it lifted up, they were back up. So right there alone shows there's going to be some issue with that. As close as you are to my house, I am probably not going to get the value that I should be getting out of my home. I'm already paying $334 on a budget with AES, and it's me. That's all it is me that live in this house. I'm going to be run out of here with nowhere to go if this goes in, because there's so many people opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Johnson.
My name's Derek Johnson. I live at 1140 West Gordon Road, approximately 1 mile due south of this project. They talk about noise pollution. I hear noise from the factories or the warehouses on the other side of 70. I hear it during the day, I hear it during the night. At night, there's a great big glow, just like when you look towards Indianapolis. That is light pollution. This is a lot closer. I don't want it, I don't need it. If you've ever had PTSD, constant noises bother you to the point where they drive you in the ground. That's me. I don't need it. My vote for this is no. I don't want an unnamed company coming into our community, taking over farm ground. We don't need that. Be up front. Who is this company? What country are they out of? Nobody knows. The other thing is all this underhanded dealings they've had with the property owners and some of the Monrovia Town Board by making them sign an NDA and say, you can't talk about this. Well, one landowner was offered $800,000 for 2 acres, a 2-bedroom home and an itty-bitty garage. Farm field, I won't name the name, I was told $28 million. And you want tax abatements? You're willing to throw that kind of money around. Pony up. Pay your taxes. We don't need tax abatements. We need somebody, we need business to come in and pay their fair share. Now, I am
Folks, I'm just going to make a comment just right here.
No, I got 53
You'll get extra time, sir. You'll get extra time. I'm just going to say for all people in here, this is not the time to talk about tax abatements and speculate about
fine.
tax abatements.
I'll move
It is not even a proper, it's not a,
I've moved on.
it is not proper for this commission to consider that issue. That is not before them.
Okay, I've moved on. Hey, I've moved on. Now, my line of business is water and sewer. I work for a company. We are a distributor. I am on an estimating group I see these plans come across my computer every day. Out east, Shelby County, over off Mount Comfort Road, Boone County, Plainfield. And a lot of these companies are repeat companies. I'm sorry, but after their abatements is done, they're moving on to another county. Okay? Talk about noise pollution, just get right back to that. When the cicadas was at my house, the decibel reading was 92. And that like drove me nuts. Talk about 65, 24/7, 365. No, can't handle that. That's all I got.
Bill?
No, Sue Dill. Jason Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Jason Taylor, 10037 Courtney Drive, Monrovia, Indiana. I don't have any questions about the tax abatements, but does the Morgan County Redevelopment Committee, I'm sure, has done some kind of estimate on what the tax revenue would be from this project? Does anybody know what that is? And because Monrovia is feeling the burden of it, I would like to see, if it goes in, a 75 to 80% of that go to the Monroe Gregg schools, go to the town of Monrovia, where we could have working fire hydrants. We need things in that town too, but yet we're gonna feel the burden of all this, but probably reap just a small fraction of the benefit, okay? Secondly, since there is precedent in the state of Indiana, and there's so many questions about the noise, back in the 90s, the airport bought out homes or soundproofed homes. Would this developer be willing to put in writing that they would be willing to do the same? We've already spoke to somebody who lost a sale of a property when they found out that this was coming. So I think there needs to be some accountability and some responsibility put on these people to, I went to the meeting the other night. The pictures they have up are just speculation. It's just a picture. It's not a development. We don't know what it's going to be. They couldn't tell how tall the buildings were going to be. They couldn't tell anything. Couldn't really answer any questions. And I know you're here just to determine what the property is going to do, if it's going to change zoning or not. But I believe that there needs to be a lot more questions answered before it even gets past this stage. That's just my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Virginia Johnson. Please hold your applause so you can hear the next name. Virginia Johnson. Hayden Johnson. Tammy Everett.
Pam, you need to pull that mic down.
There we go. I'm Tammy Everett. My address is 2935 West Cross Creek in Monrovia. I'm also the Monrovia Town Council President. I just took office in January, so for me not to know about these things isn't that unusual, but there are certainly other council members who haven't had no idea about this. With me tonight is our town attorney, Samantha DeWester, and we also have Steve Unger from Bose, McKinney, and Evans. And we're here tonight to request you to table this matter so that we, the town of Monrovia, can get more information about the project and how it's going to impact our town. To be clear, we have done absolutely nothing to interfere with this project. But as we sit here tonight, we do not even know if it is a good project for our community because we just don't have enough information. This project will absolutely impact our town. It will be right outside of our boundaries, like less than 100 feet from our boundaries. The Plan Commission application also states that it will receive its sewer service from Monrovia, and we haven't had any discussions with anyone about sewer service for the project. We've also heard the county will relocate EMS from where it currently is in our downtown, which we finally got, 24-hour EMS, and now they're gonna move it out of our firehouse where everybody knows to go in case of an emergency and move it 3 or 4 miles outside of our town. We are more than willing to work with the county and the developer to better understand this project, its benefits, and unfortunately any costs it might have to our community, but we just plain need more information and more time to process. We have asked for information, but have been told everyone associated with the town must sign a non-disclosure agreement if they want to know what's going on, which would mean we unfortunately couldn't speak against it if that's how we felt. And I also believe it puts us at some personal liability for something that's already public. I'm not sure why we would still need to sign a non-disclosure if we're in a public meeting, why town officials couldn't hear about it at this point. The public should not be kept in the dark about this, while only a few officials are getting information, but then also would have their hands tied if they signed a non-disclosure. That's just not what we're elected to do, and neither are you. We are therefore asking for more information so we all know how this project will impact us and that we can work together. My personal things, we live on Keller Hill Road is our main source, that and 42 to get to a hospital. We will not have access to our hospital when we're trying to fight all these semis and construction traffic. And if you're thinking that you're gonna send all the semis in through town, anybody that's driven through Monrovia and tried to turn left on 42 and 39 knows that's not possible as it is right now. Thank you.
Unger.
Steve Unger.
Good evening. Steve Unger, Bozeman, Kinney and Evans, 111 Circle in Indianapolis. I'm here again on behalf of the town of Monrovia. I'm going to talk about 3 legal issues. We've heard about kind of some personal things. I want to talk about some legal issues. First, 3 things. First, you do not have a valid application to consider a rezone request. Indiana Code 36-7-4-602 says a rezone proposal can be initiated by 3 different entities. 1, the Plan Commission. 2, the legislative body, which is the county commissioners. Or 3, a petition signed by property owners who own at least 50% of the land involved. Your UDO says the same thing, requires one of the 3. You have none of those here. If you look at the application, you have an application from the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. The EDC is not someone that can initiate a rezone petition. You have no petition signed by property owners here. If you actually look at the bottom of the application, your form application has a place for landowners to sign. It's blank here. And instead, it says, see an applicant's certificate that's attached. That certificate says there's a list of property owners that have provided authority to the purchaser within their respective option agreements to file applications. So it doesn't even say that the EDC has authority. They've given it to some purchaser that nobody knows who the purchaser is. But even then, that is not sufficient. The plain language of the statute says that the law requires you have a petition signed by the property owners. You do not have that here. You do not have a valid application for this board to act on. Second, Indiana Code 36-7-4-603 outlines what you have to consider when you consider a rezone. And the number 1 factor you have to consider is the comprehensive plan. You have to pay regard to the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to give you copies of it. I'm not going to go through all of it. But if you look at the map in the comprehensive plan, it very plainly outlines that this area, the land use plan, is for residential and mixed use as a buffer between residential and commercial. There is no industrial is contemplated in your comp plan here. All of the industrial is north of 70 on the east side of Monrovia. You cannot find that it's comprehensive with the comp plan to put industrial, light industrial, right in the middle of what is supposed to be residential and mixed residential commercial. So it's entirely inconsistent with the comp plan, and in fact, you're allowing a more intensive use than what's in the comp plan. Instead of 60-foot height, you're allowing 75-foot height. If you'll allow me to finish, my friend here, he was given 15 minutes, so I'd just like to finish my comments. Sorry.
Wester.
Minutes.
I would like to hand out some pages from the comp plan.
You can hand that out.
I would ask that you guys read the language in the comp plan,
Thank
right?
you.
Look at the map in the comp plan.
Samantha DeWester, do you wish to speak? Will it? I'm sorry?
Brian Willett. 11805 North Keller Heights Drive. I've lived in Keller Hill Heights subdivision since 1998. I've been a teacher at Monrovia High School for 27 years. In talking with our neighbors since news broke about this data center and in attending the community meeting last week, we don't know of anyone in favor of the project. In fact, in the 6 days since, we have 240 signatures of people opposed to it. Everyone's understandably concerned about the noise 24/7. People within a 2-mile radius will hear it. And that's a lot more than the 123 homes 3/4 of a mile east of Antioch Road. We're concerned about the huge buildings. We're concerned about the traffic. Most of all, that our property values are going to decrease. Now, here's the thing. As we look at all this, are those families, those 123 families, are they going to benefit? No. Do the Monrovia and Mooresville communities benefit? No. Not one benefit has been disclosed to us for the loss of the aesthetics of our community. A few short-term construction jobs to build a facility is not really enough to to give up the peace and quiet that we've worked for years and decades to build up. Page 55 of the Morgan County Comprehensive Plan states, quote, "New development should enhance the community's appeal. A data center with its enormous industrial buildings, constant noise, and traffic can't possibly enhance the appeal of the community of 105 homes that exist in that area. The land use section of the comprehensive plan states that the county will, quote, encourage appropriate areas for growth while protecting natural resources and prime agricultural land. Land bordered by Antioch Road, State Road 42, West Union Church Road, and Keller Hill Road has been farmed for generations, and with the over 100 homes next to it, it simply isn't an appropriate area for this project, especially when we all know that there are plenty of areas just a short distance to our west that have the same access to power but aren't populous. In the quality of life strategies section of the comprehensive plan, it states, quote, the top priority for economic development and growth in Morgan County is to create a market that is attractive to and enables residential development. Having a data center in this area is not attractive to the residential development. I understand the parcel owners have a right to sell their land, but a data center will ruin this area forever. Morgan County should work on a plan for the area that matches the goals and strategies of the comprehensive plan and promotes the common good of the people who live there. And we urge you to recommend to the county commissioners that they vote no in rezoning this land.
Holly Blake.
Blake.
Holly Blake. Pass, did you say pass? Sean Walker. Stephen Willett. Gary Potter.
Gary Potter, 1130 West Whittle Run Court. I live 600 feet immediately east of the two buildings located on the far east side of the property. According to Google, 300,000 square foot warehouse should use about 432 kilowatt hours of electricity per month. There are 4 buildings on this site, which means this campus is going to use around 1,800 kilowatt hours per month, and that's the equivalent of 2,000 homes. Now, the way you remove 1,800 kilowatts of heat is through cooling towers. And the way you use cooling towers, you run an enormous amount of airflow and tens of thousands of gallons of water across the heat exchanger. And that does 2 things. It heats the atmosphere and it creates humidity. If you're 5 miles away, the environment's gonna dissipate that, you're gonna be fine. But I'm 600 feet away. And what you're telling me is that my children are gonna endure the humidity, my children are gonna endure higher temperatures. And I asked Terry, is that what you want for your family? Would you do this for your family? Please, this is my neighborhood, this is my backyard. Please consider that. Last week's meeting, they talked about 3 wonderful things about this building. They talked about the 150-foot setback. Well, that's pretty typical in large industrial complexes. How do you back up a 75-foot semi-trailer and truck in a 50-foot setback? It's standard. 150 is not something to brag about. They talked about the beautiful berms last week, but then as they went through, and the slide's removed now, they got rid of the slide that talks about the reason the berm's there is to dissipate sound upwards. And the last thing they did was talked about the revenue benefit of having a majority staff as security guards. Keller Hill Heights subdivision, I estimate we paid more than $4 million in property taxes since its inception. I know we paid more than $10 million in revenue from income. We are smart investment. We are the right property. We don't ask for embasement. We are the right people and the right type of investment that this county needs. This is not the type of stuff you need for this county.
Charles Kenworthy. Charles Kenworthy.
Good evening. My name is Scott Gabbard. I'm speaking on behalf of Charles Kenworthy this evening. We appreciate the opportunity to get in front of the committee tonight and
I'm sorry, say again your name, sir?
Scott Gabbard, Gabbard.
What's your address, please?
It's 5028 Tudor Road in Stylesville, Indiana.
Okay.
Speaking on behalf of Eugene Kenworthy, Charles Kenworthy. He's at 12195 North Bray Road, Mooresville. You know, we've heard a lot tonight from a lot of different folks and a lot of different concerns, and you know, Charles has those same concerns. We're worried about water primarily, water primarily. You know, we're in a drought-stricken region sometimes, right? Indiana, we've had our fair share of water disparity, correct? I would say that in our area, we see a lot of that water disparity. Any research will tell you that one of these data centers take over 1.5 million to 2 million gallons of water a year, okay? That's concerning. When we're talking about farmland, we're talking about our neighbors, our community, in an area that we're already short-stricken with water, right? Something to consider. He's concerned about that. I think we all are. Electricity. The gentleman just spoke about the amount of electricity that comes from one of these data centers. I think we're all concerned about what that's going to do to our electricity costs in our community, right? We're already at times where we're paying how much more in electric than we already have been for the last few years, right? Inflation is at an all-time high. How much more can we take? Last but not least is property values. Again, we already had one individual that can't sell their house because of the location. We're concerned about the property values as well of our houses. You know, beyond all the environmental impact, we also need to think about the economic realities, okay? While our proponents, they're gonna tout the job creation with the construction jobs that are gonna be up and gone in 3 to 5 years or however long it takes to rebuild this project, right? But we also need to think about the 50 or 75 or 100 jobs or however it's gonna create. Probably most of those are skilled labor jobs, ones that aren't gonna be available to the Monrovia people, right? It just is what it is. We know we're Morgan County residents, we're a farm community. We may have some in the community that'll get those jobs, but they're gonna come from Indianapolis, they're gonna come from Terre Haute, they're gonna come from all these other areas. It's not gonna have any economic impact directly to our community. And that's what we're looking for. We ask that you vote no and oppose this project in our community. Thank you very much.
John Louie. Louie?
John Louie, 11057 North Gasper Road. And I'd just like to point out that you work for us. We are your bosses, and we say no. If you approve this, it will destroy the lives of hundreds of people. It will destroy usable farmland. It will have some incredible noise. It will have increased light pollution, even with the cutoff lights, because it will still reflect off the ground. It'll destroy the aquifer. It'll dry up wells for people. It'll destroy people's property values. And just remember, you cannot serve God and money. At the very least, whoever thought inflicting this on us was a good idea should be fired.
Bob Schuler. Bob Schuler.
Bob Schuler, Bob, would you like to speak?
Bob.
Yeah, you.
Bob
yeah.
Schuler. Are you speaking? You passing?
Passing, Bob?
Are you
want-
Bob Schuler,
Yeah.
sir? Very good. Robert Burling.
Now it's your turn, sir.
My name is Robert Burling. I live at 664 West Keller Hill Road. That is about half a mile to the east of this project proposed, and I have farmland right across the road from it, right next to a little subdivision we put in about 30 years ago. And when we did the little subdivision, we had to have a plat and all kind of things, and I can't think what you call it, the covenants about what's supposed to happen. You don't have any of that here. I would absolutely 100% not allow any groundwater for anything, including geothermal. I've been undecided about what to do about this because I really don't have a lot of information, not against progress. But I think I'm coming down about 75% no. And the last thing I would want to say is this. I like home rule. If Martinsville wants to put in a big deal like this down here, I'm not going to come down and say a word. You go right ahead. But you're in Monroe Township, and all the people in Monroe Township should be given deference in regard to this thing. And that includes Monrovia, because Monrovia is Monroe Township. And I don't care if there's been some fuss with Monrovia or not. It doesn't make a difference. They're citizens of Monroe Township. If it would happen to go through, these people need to put in writing that they will use city water, not groundwater. They need to do something about Keller Hill Road, because if you got a bunch of construction people, and Keller Hill Road already is a madhouse. You can't pull out of my driveway without looking, and you got to pay attention or you will get run over. It's just that simple. First place west of Gasburg Road. I don't have anything left. I mean, I've got 50 seconds left. I guess I could use it with something. But y'all have a nice night, and think about that. But local people should have the biggest say in the whole thing.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions? See ya.
Rebecca Collis. Rebecca Collis. Thank you. Carol Youngblood.
Hi, Carol Youngblood, 11049 North State Road 39, Monrovia. I'm the Vice President of the Monrovia Town Council. Tammy came before me and she did a very good job, and obviously our representation is also presented to you tonight. This project's a huge project. Unfortunately, we don't know as much in the same proportion. We don't know very much. And unfortunately, people were picked and choosed of our town council who would be given any information, and those folks were made to sign NDAs. So this whole project needs a little bit more light shed on it and needs a little bit more consideration. The impact to our community is going to be huge. The impact to our town infrastructure could be huge. As Tammy already said, it's right at the very border of our town. And so the lack of transparency, the lack of information that's been brought available is just shameful. And this needs to, at the very minimum, be delayed until some of those things can be brought out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Krausik. Teresa Krausik. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name.
Good evening. Teresa Krausik. I have 2 residences in Monrovia, 225 Terrace Drive, a few blocks away from the project, 3430 West Baltimore Woodlands, unincorporated Monrovia. This whole town, this whole county, and I have been out here for almost 30 years now, is a county of good working people who are loyal and honest and true. That's what I think of as Morgan County. This is a project of deceit. This is a project of deceit from the very get-go of not having the right paperwork, for not giving the correct information, for being told at a meeting last week that this is what it's gonna look like, these pictures, and today there's different pictures. Being told that we don't know how tall it's gonna be, we don't know how many buildings are gonna be there. We're not sure on the noise level. This deceit is all over the United States with these centers being built. Please look up all the lawsuits brought by individuals, towns, cities, and counties against these companies for all the lies that are being told when they're being built. Yes, the sound is a suggestion of what the state wants, and there are so many lawsuits because they are constantly going over that sound, going over the pollution, going over everything they're saying they're not going to do. We don't even know where this company is coming from. Are they American? We don't know. We're not allowed to know. That's supposed to be a secret too. The impact on the town is dramatic, dramatic. We don't have a fire station for this. We don't have a police station for this. This is not jobs. This is under 50 jobs, around the clock, 3 different shifts. I would be surprised if it even gets to be that. So no, there's no money in that. So will you get some money as a county in taxes? Okay, yeah, you will. Lebanon's center that's going in, being built by Meta. Meta is paying $1.5 million every year. That is not taxes, that is past taxes given to the town of Lebanon to do whatever they want with because of the impact they know they're gonna have. What is the impact fee that Monrovia is gonna get from this company or the county to cover everything that we're gonna be putting up with? What is it gonna be? 1.5 for Lebanon. What's ours in Monrovia? None of this can be answered. A lot of this was asked last week. The attorney himself, the other people, all we kept hearing is, well, we don't have an answer for that right now. We don't have an answer. We don't know what this is gonna be. Come on, these little trees, this tall, they're gonna grow 20 feet in 6 years? There's so much deceit going on here. Please, be the county that we think you are, that we think we are. Don't let people come in and deceive us and do all of this and take advantage of us because they think that we're some little county and not Carmel.
Hiram Trisler. Mr. Trisler? No, pass. Caitlin Tipsward. Caitlin Tipsward? I'm so. Tanya Cleaver.
I'm Tanya Cleaver. I live at 1055 West Keller Hill Road. And I moved here 17 years ago from the west side of Indianapolis. I lived at Naomi and Lyndhurst, which is right across the street from Park Fletcher. And the constant hum from the factories and the foundry, Universal Flavors, the stink of it. This is my first time public speaking, so excuse me, I'm nervous. It was enough for me to get on out. Also, I have a background in respiratory therapy, and there was an Indianapolis Star article written about the kids that lived over in that area. They had the highest rate of asthma and lung disease in the state. And so my concern is health. I ditto everything everybody said up here about the electricity and the water and the traffic and the noise and the stress from it. But there's also byproducts of the generators, the diesel that runs the generators, nitrous oxide, and that's a toxic gas. And it causes smog and respiratory illness. And we kind of pride ourselves, I found out around this area, on sports and health. And I think a much better project to go in would be like a big sports complex, one like Plainfield has, or what's going on downtown with the girls' basketball team, the complex that they're building. I mean, that's kind of what this area is known for, is the sports heroes that we breed, that y'all breed up here. And also I am concerned about cybersecurity risks that, we don't want to be a target if something bad happens. Because if you look on Google, which I don't know if that's who's coming to town or not, they say ransomware is a type of cybersecurity attack that targets data and infrastructure. So if it targets the infrastructure, that's targeting our neighbors and the 150 homes that are in our area. I would urge you to consider all the health risks, and you can Google those.
Brad Woolmeister? Janice Weddle?
My name is Janice Weddle. I live at 1729 West State Road 42, Mooresville, right across the street from where they're building this. And my concern is, from what I could tell, if they built retention ponds, the water that runs through that property runs right into our property across the street. Are they gonna cut that off? Is our well gonna go dry? Is the dust gonna come over in the yard? We got a pool right out in the front. Are we gonna have problems with all the dust of 5 to 8 year construction? What's it gonna do to our property? I also, my husband has a pacemaker. Issues that some of these data centers can cause problems with pacemakers if you live too close to a data center with the power they put off. And they put off a lot of power. Are they gonna take care of my well if it goes dry? Are they gonna come over and clean my property from all the dust they're gonna spread? No. They aren't gonna do any of that. What money is giving to the county or whatever, is the county gonna give it back to us homeowners that live right across the street from them and they're gonna hear the noise, the pollution, and all the other stuff that goes along with these data centers? No. So my theory is no. And I hope you guys look at all the health issues, the noise, the pollution, and all that this can cause. And also, from what I read, these data centers last 15 to 20 years, then they vacate. They leave you with all the pollution and all the other stuff that they've left behind into the towns, the counties, and the residents. Is that what you want? Thank you.
Weddle? You're going to speak, Mr. Weddle? Dorothy Robeson? Bill Robeson? Michelle Jones?
My name is Michelle Jones. I live at 33 West Henshaw Road in Monrovia, Indiana. And I have the old Shotters farm, Bernard Shotters, who was Power IPL president. And I am concerned mainly about the wildlife we have in Monrovia. We have eagles. And you can't tell me that you're not going to move the eagles if you have all the sound and all the power coming out. The light's going to move them. And so is all the stuff that the noise is going to move them. And that's illegal because the eagles are protected. And I'm also concerned about the farm tile. I live on property where there's a neighborhood next to it, and ever since the neighborhood came, they broke some of the farm tile, and we flood. And we have areas that our farmer cannot plant in some years, and so we don't make as much money off of our 24 acres that we cash rent. So I'm concerned on what's going to happen to the farmers, what's going to happen to their farm tiles, the people that are surrounding areas, and not to mention all the other things that have already been mentioned. We are a farming town. We want to stay a sleepy town. We don't mind being a sleepy town. We love our farm country. That's why we live there. Thank you. And I vote you guys should say no. And so would my grandfather.
Carol Youngblood? Gary Hoff, Gary Hemp, Gary. I'm sorry, I can't read the handwriting. Carol Gilbert. Carrie Gilbert. Carl, I'm sorry. Sorry.
My name is Carl Gilbert, and I have two pieces of property that's located near this, both 554 and 538 West State Road 42. We're a third of the mile down the road. I actually own a business within a third of the mile of this. And one of the biggest things that I have is when we had to have rezoning done, we had to send out certified mail to all the residents that surrounded us. We had to have all the plans and everything presented to the board before we could ever be heard. We also had to identify who the company was that was doing the rezoning. Why is this company different from the rest of the county residents? Why are they allowed to not send out the notifications? Why are they allowed to be unanimous and not be told who they are? There's a reason behind that. That's because they're hiding behind it. The other thing that everybody's talked about is all this employment. I don't know about you guys, but I sure know our county pretty good. There's not a whole lot of construction companies in Morgan County that can handle projects this massive. They will be hiring companies outside of our community to do the construction. Very little employment will happen through our construction companies. Also, the employment for the inside, if you do any research on these, most of these are unmanned. The engineer jobs that they're gonna have inside sit behind a computer at an unknown location and monitor the systems off-site. So therefore, those jobs will not come to Morgan County. The last couple things that I have here is one is the water pollution and the drainage. If you look at the proposed plans that they have no clue of what they're doing because they're not sure where they're going to build, the retention ponds are to the south. This is a hillside. It is going to drain to the west. Any engineer can see that the retention ponds will not hold the water because it's going to drain the opposite direction. Also, the hillside, 15-foot berms with trees, this is a very large hillside. When they put those buildings up, they're not going to be hidden. So that's going to be a huge issue. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand to sit in the living room when my wife is vacuuming or the dishwasher is running, and to have to listen to this 24/7 is definitely an eyesore, and it's not something that I want to have to do. The last thing that I have here is I hope you guys just take into consideration there are too many unknowns. They can't answer the questions. They can't tell us what they're going to build, how they're going to build it, where they're going to get the water supply. There's too many unknowns. Why should this property be rezoned without those variables being discovered, being presented, and then being upfront and honest?
Philip Wisniewski. Philip Wisniewski. Philip, are you in the room? Tammy Raymond?
Oh, is Philip coming?
Okay, sorry.
Philip Wisniewski, 8775 Watkins Lane, Clayton, Indiana. So first thing I want to address is that, this is real sensitive. Okay, I do not live in your township. However, I live just outside of it, and I live less than a mile away from this thing. And where I live, there have already been so many warehouses put up in that area. I mean, you can't see the stars anymore, if that tells you anything. And there is noise constantly, and you can hear it. Even though I'm sure it's way less than their supposed 65 decibels. But also I want to bring up, if we're going to rezone for this craziness, what else are we going to rezone for? You know, in the same area. I mean, I've seen how many warehouses y'all have put there, constantly choosing warehouses over the farming jobs that we've had for generations. And then as for the property buffers that y'all showed, I'm just saying, they're the exact same as the property buffers that they've showed for every other warehouse. You can see that thing clear as day. There's not a second guess to know that there's a massive warehouse right there that looks ugly, because they all look ugly because they're all just gray. And then also, they're not disclosing, I mean, even who they are, if they're an American company, if they're gonna be actually involved in our community in the way that we want. But then adding to that, we don't know if this is gonna be a normal data center, like in the past, or if this is gonna be used for AI. If this is used for AI, that doubles the amount of water and electricity, and possibly even triples it. How are we gonna even manage that? Because they said that they were gonna keep on changing what they're gonna have inside of this data center, as they go on and as they own this. So how do we know? That's all.
Thank you. Tammy Raymond, and I apologize, I think it's Tammy. Tammy? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Tammy Raymond. I live at 1047 East Bunker Hill Trail in Mooresville, approximately 2 miles from that data center, and approximately a mile from the industrial areas of Mooresville, which have encroached on our property in the 20 years we've lived there. When we moved in, it was a very quiet place. It's not so much anymore, and this will absolutely make it worse, even at our distance. But the first thing I want to say is, I don't think you all got the message of the last election. We are sick and tired of unelected bureaucrats telling us what we want instead of asking us what we want. And no one asked me what kind of academic development we want for Morgan County, what kind I want for Morgan County. And I think everyone here would also appreciate the opportunity to tell. Everyone here lives here either because they grew up here. This is home. This is where their family is. They have no desire to move. Or because It's convenient to the jobs in Indianapolis and Bloomington, but it's a quiet place. It's a small town feel. That's really what we want. If we wanted to live somewhere with encroaching cities and all the warehouses and all that, we would live in Hendricks County or Johnson County. I grew up in Johnson County. You couldn't pay me to live there now. It's miserable. Economic development should focus on our small local businesses. What does anyone here do to help new entrepreneurs to open a business? It's almost impossible to come up with the money to open a decent-sized business in this county. No one says anything, no one does anything to help. And for the record, I checked today on both the Morgan County and Martinsville websites. There is no mention of any small business in the entire county. My family and I are privileged to travel a lot. I frequently go to the websites for the cities and towns where we're going to be, and almost every time I see where to dine, where to stay, what to do, local attractions. The only local attractions listed are the county parks. If we really want to grow this county, then we're going to consider the things that this county wants, things that are really useful. You want to grow that area? Think about hotels close to the airport, but just far enough away that people could get a better price for the hotels. That would also bring restaurants, both of which would bring in the taxes, they would bring the extra jobs, they would bring in the extra people, the kind of people that we want, hardworking Americans here.
Janet McKee. Janet McKee. Randall McKee.
My thanks to the Planning Commission before I get started, it's Randall McKee, 1050 West Willow Run Court, Mooresville, Indiana, 46158.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the invitation of the public to show up and express some concerns that we may have about this proposed rezoning. Most of the good topics have been discussed, and I'm not going to belabor any of those. However, we all know, living in Morgan County, that look at your electrical bills in the last few years, and that has happened because of the demand on electricity has gone up. And they amortize those costs through all the taxpayers. I'm one of them, I know, I see the bills. Same way with the water. There was a discussion about water not coming out of the aquifer, not coming out of the wells in the neighborhoods. It's got to come from somewhere. The last meeting, they said they were going to pipe it in a pipeline from White River, which would be a long way away, which means you'd have to intrude on the land to do that. So the next point is that the duration of the construction project, we'd all hope that maybe this was a 6-month building project where they put the stuff in and get the heck out of there into the dump trucks and the tractor trailers. But no, today we heard 5 to 8 years, I think, something like that. That is an enormous amount of traffic that has to go down Keller Hill Road or 42 or Antioch Road or Union Church Road. These are the roads that surround that plot. And Keller Hill Road is extremely narrow. That road would have to be at least doubled in width. Same way Antioch is a small road. These are residential roads. They are not commercial roads for commercial traffic. It creates a real problem. The other thing is that the decibels that were talked about today, okay? 65 was stated by, I think, the gentleman from Barnes and Thornburg. 65 decibels is not a dishwasher. I've done decibel readings on the A scale. A dishwasher might be 20, but 65 is a lot of noise. I've got enough money, I can live about anywhere I want in the country. And I came to Morgan County for the people and for the serenity of this county. I'm not displeased with my decision to live here, but we have to take into consideration that we didn't buy into an industrial zone where this thing is. that doesn't belong where we're at. This is nothing but residences all around. And what are we gonna do? We're gonna try to sell our homes and get a pittance for what they're worth at this point? I don't think so. Thank you very much.
Gary Terrell.
Gary Terrell?
And Lisa Terrell. Danielle Smith. Okay, that brings us to the end of those speaking in opposition to the petition. I'm sorry, we're not quite done yet. Interested people? Devetta Plu, and I apologize, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Devetta, do you want to speak?
Hi, my name's Devetta Plu, 415 North Chestnut Street, Monrovia. I'm like catty-cornered across from the fire department, so I'm really close to all this is going on. I know the lady said don't talk about taxes, but that's what I do is taxes, and it's going to matter for everybody. Our biggest question, I think, for everybody is why all the secrecy? If this is a good thing, we would know about it. It would be something that they should be proud of for us to know about it. The people they're going to bring in are probably people from another country to run these computers, because that's what they do. It's not going to be our people that work and live right here in Monrovia or Martinsville or Morgan, anywhere in Morgan County. The amount that they paid for the land tells you something. They're up to something, or they would have been upfront about it, because the money they paid for this land is outlandish for anybody. And I don't begrudge them of making that money, the people that sold it. I don't think anybody does here. It's just the fact that you don't pay that much money for something that isn't a secret. I mean, you're going to be open about it. Who's going to benefit from it? I live right in Monrovia. I can't even have a fire hydrant. I have some in my yard, but no water runs to it because they can't bring water to it, is what Morgan County Rural Water tells us. So where are they going to get the water that they're going to need for this? I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I'm trying to read everything I've got on here. We need more time to know what's going on before you guys make a decision on this. I don't want to hear my vacuum cleaner running all the time, neither do you. And then I've worked in restaurants. The dishwashers in there are a lot louder than your regular dishwasher at home. Nobody wants to hear this. And I do have a question for the people that are here. Would everybody that's against this just raise their hand just for a show of people seeing? It's much easier to see when you see the visual. People that don't want it are here. They don't want this. I humbly ask that you do not rezone for this project. And if you do, it will just open up the doors for anything else to come in, and who knows what that'll be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks. Brandon, I am so sorry, Brandon, I cannot read your last name. I believe it's Nora. No? And Justin Mull, M-W-L, M-A-U-L. Justin? No, Justin. Okay, that brings us to the end of the list. I'm sorry.
That gentleman's name. What was your name, sir?
Did you sign up?
I did not, but I'd like to have 3 minutes if you would.
I think everyone was supposed to sign up to speak at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
You signed? What's your name? Oh, that may be the one that we couldn't read the handwriting.
Okay, sir, come on up.
Hoff, Mr. Hoff?
Gil Hawk from 6556 Crone Road in Martinsville. One thing about going last is that almost everything's been talked about. So I won't be here long. How's that? But one thing I am concerned about is the fact of, if we can know who the developer is, could we know what country they're from? That would be nice. And then, if you're wanting put a data center there, could you tell us where another data center is, so maybe we could go look at it? Kentucky Avenue. All right, I believe I know where that one's at. And I've heard that we don't know how tall the buildings are. I've heard that, and I don't know if my information's correct, but what I've got is that maybe there would be something coming from Citizens Energy. I believe that's natural gas. Is that not true? If it's natural gas, what are we going to use natural gas for? Okay?
Citizens is water also out of Indianapolis.
Just water?
No, it's gas and water.
It's gas and water, so it's just going to be water coming through there. Okay. So if we're pumping, then I got information, I don't know if it's right, that maybe we're going to use 5 million gallons of drinking water a day. What are we going to do with 5 million gallons of water after we use it? Where are we going to dump it at? Who's going to take that 5 million gallons? Is it going to be reprocessed? If it's going to be reprocessed, is it going to be good water? Can we go over and drink it after they use it? Or is it going to have to be processed again and reused again? Or are we just going to dump it and waste it? Okay? The only other thing I wanted to talk about is the fact there have been so many unknowns. I've never been in a meeting that says, we don't know, I don't know. If we don't know what's going on, please don't make a decision tonight. Please don't do that. Then you've got so many other problems that you're going to have to deal with. Find out if this is going to go through, let's find out what the answers are. And then make a decision that we can all live with. As far as I'm concerned tonight, it ought to be at least tabled, and you bring all the information back. But from what I'm seeing, I say we vote no for the whole thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The petitioner always gets whatever time they need because they are the ones that petitioned the board.
Okay, so if other people were willing to give up their time to them, so it wouldn't have taken time away from
Well, that's just the way the rules are, so.
So if that's
That's
the
a- no,
rules,
no, no.
where's the petitioner? Because the attorney is not the company.
That's true.
Down, please.
So regarding tonight's questions, will they be jotted down?
Now, I will not answer questions from the floor.
I'm sorry?
No, I can't, I'm not answering questions from the floor.
Can I approach the?
No?
Yes. I sent my questions to you folks last night at 11 o'clock. You had my written questions.
Well, we don't have any written questions here. So,
Sure, when I got a response from Ed Carmen at morgancounty.in.gov. I've got one from
okay.
Adams, I've got one from Kay Hale, and one from B. Collier.
All right, we're going to move on.
The whole purpose of asking these questions, I was under the impression that the community would get a response to the questions. Well, what was the purpose of having a hearing?
We're going to move on. We gave you time to talk, which we give everyone time to talk. Move on. That's all we have signed up to speak. Would you like a rebuttal? Which he's entitled to a rebuttal.
Okay, I'm going to words and turn it over to my colleague to answer some of the more technical questions. Let me just say a couple of things procedurally speaking. And first of all, I don't envy any plan commission member who volunteers their time to sit and make decisions in front of people that they live nearby. Maybe they go to church with them, go out to eat. It's difficult. I think you all understand that your decisions, your recommendations are based upon, in this particular case, and rezonings, upon land use principles, not public sentiment, not to delegitimize anybody's feelings whatsoever. But it's hard when you're sitting up here and you're trying to weigh what you hear want answers on operational type of issues when that's way beyond the scope of zoning hearing. So in terms of real estate development, here's the way things work. A property owner is going to give a developer some months of time to figure out how they get through their, which is comprised of studying the soils, the water supply, all the things that we've been hearing about. What about water? What about this? What about that? All of that is going on as we speak, but zoning is typically a separate due diligence function. And unfortunately, because zoning is a statutory procedure that is controlled by filing deadlines, public hearings, potential continuances, all those kinds of things, a lot of times zoning comes first. And zoning is much more of a 50,000-foot view of how the property can and should be used in the future. And that's really what we're asking. We're asking you to take a look and understand that this property, we believe, given its location, given the zoning categories that are in place in and around the site, and most importantly, and I'm not going to say this, but your professional planner is going to say, we have a land use that is consistent with the goals of your comprehensive plan. Those are the things that really get mixed up as you make your deliberation and decision to certify to county commissioners this evening. We will say this is not a company, it's a U.S. company, okay? The reason we do, or my client does, NDAs is because it doesn't want to get out in front of its skis and have a situation where people know and then something happens with that other due diligence and the project goes away. That's a really bad stain. So that's why there were NDAs. It had nothing to do with a bad or secret or evil, deceitful type project, anything but. So we think, when it's all said and done, that what we're proposing is more than fair based on the current UDO standards. Yes, we put in for buildings up to 75 feet. The reality is most buildings built by this company are 36 to 45 feet in height. There could be a water cooling tower that's 75 feet in height. There could be a change in building efficiency that adds another level. But the reality is that there's not been a building that high. There have been accessory structures that tall. The images that you saw tonight cleaned up our presentation from the one that we gave to the community last week. We did remove some slides with day one plantings, and we put the plantings that would be what it would look like several years down the road of maturity. It's not meant to deceive, it's meant to be more efficient time-wise. The fact of the matter is, as we previously said, our berming and landscaping plan far exceeds your UDO requirements, and we will meet or exceed the initial planting requirements for all of our planting. I will say one thing about the application process, and there are representatives of the owners that are probably here in the audience as well. All of the owners did authorize the purchaser to move forward with the zoning. Because this is a big project with multiple landowners involved, your Economic Development Corporation volunteered to act as kind of the front person for this. That does not delegitimize the application. The owners are completely on board. I've done zoning cases for 36 years, and we have all kinds of consents that owners provide developers and others to go ahead and file applications. So I don't think you're on shaky ground when it comes to the legitimacy of the application. We worked certainly with your planning staff as well, who accepted the application. We did comply, and probably then some, with all of our notice requirements as to who gets notified. And I talked to Laura about that, and I said, I'm really going pretty far west, but I was worried because there were owners that had big parcels adjacent to what was being rezoned, and I didn't want to take the chance to have somebody say, well, that owner owns so much property, notified me. We went ahead and did that. So we over-noticed, quite frankly, the hearing. We certified, we sent notices via certificate of mailing. We sent to your staff who had that within their record. We do not short our notices. And finally, as to, and then I'll have my colleague come up, we know that in a zoning case, there's a lot of factors to consider. But at the end of the day, it's a legislative act that provides you with guidelines, not mandates. And the comprehensive plan is important, but so are other things. Preserving values throughout the whole community, the highest and best use of the property in the jurisdiction involved. There's 5 of them. Not one exceeds importance of the other. That's Indiana case law. I'm not going to get into that because it's past 9 o'clock tonight. But rest assured that your decision, based on what you've heard tonight, you will weigh those factors in your own mind. And you don't have to get locked into one versus the other versus the other versus the other. We think the project makes good common sense, given the power lines, given what your professional staff has reported, given what we've presented to you. We believe that we've written a PUD that provides significant protections in terms of development standards and limiting uses. We've got rid of, and there was a gentleman that said, I live near warehouses, I can't stand them. They're noisy, they're ugly, blah, blah, blah. We get it. We got rid of warehouse distribution. That's not permitted in this PUD. So we've tried to understand what the concerns might be. It's never easy when you have a large conglomerate of parcels, lots of different uses nearby, including residential. The best we can do is mitigate those, which we think we've done.
So there's a lot to unpack with everything we heard tonight. I'm going to focus on a couple of primary things. One would be the noise. The client is not in the business of making bad neighbors. Their commitments to noise, the technology that they use to mitigate noise and how they design their equipment, and they intentionally make these sort of commitments as a maximum. I know there's been some discussion about the noise being 24/7. Noise does throughout the day, and when there is a demand cooling during the day when it's hotter outside, there may be a high level of noise, but it is still not going to exceed the commitment the client has made. At night, when things are cooler, there is not as much noise. And throughout the process, the client is acoustician, sound engineers, and very carefully considers all the equipment that is selected. They focus on the technology for noise mitigation equally as much as they do on the technology for the computer chips that go in these buildings. As far as water and sewer, things that we talked about earlier, that the technology hasn't yet been determined, the client actually goes through an exhaustive watershed health analysis. And if that analysis comes back that the watershed cannot support a substantial additional water use, the client self-selects to not pursue that type of technology for cooling. As far as, and sewer, all, air permitting, all of those things are well documented, what the processes are with the state, with the county, and all the things that we need to go through and comply with in order for the project to be issued a permit for development. And we fully intend to do all of those things. Traffic, we will do the appropriate analysis and working with the agencies. And as far as impact on infrastructure, the client has a history of partnering with the community to pay their freight for the cost of infrastructure that is needed to support the project. So they aren't in any way looking to shirk a responsibility for paying for what is needed to make this project happen. So that was, I think, 3 big things on at least the details of the engineering. I'm happy to respond to anything else that you may want me to follow up on.
Questions?
Did not your first slide have the height of all the buildings on it, along with the setbacks?
We did not show a building height on those buildings.
Do you have that on that slide?
We cannot build a building per our PUD text that exceeds 75 feet. So that is what we're committing to as a part of, no matter how long it takes us to build out the project.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions? Kenny, you have any questions?
Not at this time.
No one else has any questions? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Parker? Come to the mic, please.
I would like to read for you the staff recommendation so that you have that information and as well as the public. The Morgan County Comprehensive Plan was a 2-year countywide plan adopted in 2019. All of you are aware of it, probably participated on those committees. Its purpose is to help guide and inform county officials when making strategic land use decisions for the county. Within the pages of the comp plan is a future land use map, and it is a generalized illustration of where land uses are appropriate based on the availability of infrastructure and resources suitable for those uses. So it is a very high-level evaluation that requires fine-tuning on a case-by-case basis, and this would be one of those cases. The 3 land use categories that do appear across the project area, as was illustrated in one of the slides and is in your handouts, is commercial, mixed use, and residential. But the portion illustrated as residential does not account for the towers and power transmission lines dissecting the property, which would make traditional subdivision development less desirable. On the flip side, though, these transmission lines are the exact type of infrastructure, and it is infrastructure, no different than a highway or fiber or water utility, that is needed for the data center development. When combined with the proximity of utilities, the transportation network, Indiana legislature's efforts to attract this type of use, as it did in 2019, and the county's expressed desire to focus economic development in this area of the county, the proposed rezone request is appropriate. The fact that the rezone is in the form of a PUD with increased buffering and setback requirements increases its compatibility, as well as now we know the petitioner has indicated that they would be increasing that buffer zone and putting in the noise decibel level as well. Allowing economic development to locate in appropriate areas of the county helps protect those other areas of the county for agricultural and natural resources. It may not be necessarily in the same physical spot in the county. That may help other areas of the county further south. They're offsetting each other. And that's what the comp plan hopes to accomplish. This justification will not be accepted by those who oppose the request, but serving the greater good of the whole county is why a comprehensive plan is adopted and used as a guide in decision-making. For these reasons, staff supports a favorable recommendation for the PUD rezone request. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Ms. Parker?
Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Mr. Brock.
Mr. Unger brought up a point that it wasn't legally submitted to us. Can you address that to us?
Actually, I think Joe addressed that, and I heard him address those points with respect to the submission. And I have no reason to doubt that he did his research on that being done properly in terms of the RDC stepping into the shoes of the property owners. Is that what you were concerned about?
Well, I'm just concerned, I'll make sure it's legal, that we're legally can go forward.
I heard the concern, I heard the explanation. I don't think that you are prevented from moving forward.
I need you to tell, as our attorney, tell us if we're allowed to move forward in your
Correct.
opinion.
Correct. And what I wanted to make sure that I did talk about, I drew some boos from the crowd out here. Tough crowd tonight. There's been a lot of things that have been raised here. You all are familiar with the criteria that you can consider to make this zoning decision. And it's not about, it's not a decision based on where the company is coming from and the amount of secrecy that people are upset about and potential tax abatements. Those aren't the factors that you consider when you make your decision tonight.
Thank you. This closes our public portion of the hearing. Does the board need a break?
That would be welcomed.
We are going to take a 10-minute bathroom break, and then we will be back.
mine or didn't you?
Well, I didn't want to get a bunch of stuff.
Well, I kept throwing mine inside of them.
Plus, I didn't want the little tab to make me slap.
Yeah, I go ahead and bend mine back down a ways.
To start. Mine's not. Not picking up at all. I don't know. It's as good a technical equipment we got. I don't know. Meeting's called back to order. We are now we're out of the public portion of the hearing. We're to the discussion. The floor is open for discussion. Yeah, among the board members. What you guys' thoughts?
I do believe we should table it.
I'll have to talk in the mic, Joe.
I said, I believe we should table it for another meeting. More, I mean, for the information I've gotten, being new to this council, I don't think I have enough information. I just got this Friday evening. I've not been read in on it. I do believe I would like to see it tabled myself.
Okay. No, not yet. Let them talk. Any other discussion? It's time to talk, people.
Well, it sounds like it's all in the preliminary stages anyway.
Now you gotta go to the mic, Brian.
I would second a motion to.
Didn't make a motion yet,
Okay.
Brian. We're just discussing right now. Any other discussion?
In some ways, many years ago, we had a proposal in Clay Township that Clay Township really became incensed over it, and they put all their ground in trust and everything like this. And I found out later that it was a Eli Lilly warehouse. It was going to do nothing. It just stored stuff. And it would have been a economic boom tax-wise to us. Now, I'm not 100% sure how much taxes we're going to get out of this, but I'm certainly sure it's going to be more than 390 acres of farm ground. That's just, I'm thinking that.
Anyone else? Any discussion? Jason, you got anything?
As far as the taxes go, you could fill this lot, or these lots, full of houses. I don't know how many you could fit in there, and you would not get the same tax revenue you will from this one project. Plus, you would have, I mean, talking about sound, then you have, everyone's got a central air conditioner running, everyone's mowing their yards, there's kids yelling in the street, there's noise. These the technology, you get online and the ones you read about are 10, 15 years old. These things, the technology has come so far that it's not the same one they built even a year ago. Being able to recycle the water, used to they would pull the water in, run it through and dump it back out. Well, now they use recyclers, they cool it down, use the same water over and over before they dump it. I think they can use some geothermal stuff even, so they don't have to use nearly as much water. But those things really don't matter for ours, just given the recommendation for the rezone. The rezone, they have to stick somewhat to what they've given. They can change a little bit on a building or something, but this is just a rezone. They might find out they can't put it here. I think I've been told they're core drilling and stuff out there. They might find something and say, well, we can't do it anyways. All we've done is gave a recommendation to the commissioners, favorable or unfavorable. It'll be up to the commissioners to make that final decision in the end. But as far as our scope for our job up here, I would be a yes on a favorable recommendation.
I think Bill makes a very good point that, you know, I get the idea of people being concerned about their property values and what's going to be the future and those sorts of things, but I think we don't want to be short-sighted and let something pass for our county that could be a boon for us for a very long time. So I also feel like a favorable recommendation. And remember, this goes to the commissioners, and they weigh all of this just as we have, that it would be their decision to move it forward.
I tend to agree with Melanie and Jason, and I understand concerns of, as we've heard for the last few hours from neighbors. At the end of the day, we've got to look out for the overall county. There's a comp plan, as Laura mentioned. The landowners and their decision to do what they feel is in their best interest with their own land. I know there was some things said about maybe not voting for this. Last I checked, there's a very large investment being made from the federal government in AI and data centers from Trump himself, about $500 billion. State legislators 6 years ago decided to do the retail and sales tax exemption for the equipment in these type of facilities. If you research, data centers are coming, whether we like it or not. The state of Indiana is on a list of top 5 states ready for this type of infrastructure. So when there's opportunity like this and they seek out properties that fit the characteristics of what it can support, and ultimately this commission's role is nothing with the finances, just best use with the UDO and comp plan, and this is one step of many that's going to be overlapped as this process goes through, where more information will be revealed. I'm confident this company and developer will sit down with the town of Monrovia and have more detailed conversations with many others. At the end of the day, we're giving a recommendation to 3 elected officials to make this decision for zoning, and I would be a favorable yes to that.
Yes, I am. Many years ago, and this was back in the early 2000s, I was actually in Laura's seat, plan director for Morgan County in 2004. I brought a friend down from Indy, that Mr. Paul Kite, a developer up there, done a lot of development, and we had some property under lease option as far as the county goes. Showed Paul the property, and it was for a data site. It had redundancy power and water, which that's what they really look for. It was on the 37 corridor, which is I-69 now, in Harrison Township. I thought we had everything pretty much, daggone, what he needed. But, and I mean, I was seeking him out, trying to bring business and jobs to Morgan County. And it just, at the time, it wasn't right, and it didn't happen. This is going to be zilch as an impact on your school. I mean, you're not looking at daggone kids. It is going to help your daggone lower your taxes. There's no doubt about it. With what they're talking about, you're going to have daggone lower taxes with the AV that they're going to be bringing in on data sites. Your typical data site is millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. So, I mean, I hear the arguments. There's a lot of pluses and minuses, and I think we need to just, again, further explore this option and see where it goes. It may not go anywhere. I don't belittle the people that sold the property. They had every right to sell their property, and I don't blame them. But you do have you do have an increase on digging. People really digging, need to put data centers in because we are so addicted to these phones, our laptops, our computers. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, you got them now to where you're doing it on your watch. I mean, so, that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you.
You know, there's a big advantage that I see in that this is not gonna put any kids in schools. And your school's packed right now, and from what we are told, you know, there are about another 1,000 houses gonna go in your area after a bit here within the next few years. Not gonna cost you a new school or anything like that, thank God. And when you built the last one, it basically was full when you built it. And like Mr. Hale said, I see a lot more positives than I see negatives. They're gonna have to figure out where to get water, obviously. And it's not gonna be drilling a well, I'm about 99% sure, from the water out there, from what you all say. I've got a personal generator, I camp. And there's a lot of places I can't take generators because they have too many decibels. And basically at 65 decibels, as I understand it, when that noise reaches that side of the road, it's not gonna reach the other side of the road. Probably that diesel tractor that's running through there is gonna make more decibels when the short period of time it does run through there than what we're talking about with this machinery. And light construction or light industrial, yes, it could make some. But you guys, maybe with your relatives or you, unfortunately ended up next to Indianapolis. 2 interstates. One runs north and south, one runs east and west. And that's why we got all those unbelievable industrial parks in Hendricks County, and they've not moved over to our side, but it's bound to happen. I've lived here a long time. We've actually got houses in my road now. I don't care for that, but I'm stuck with it. I think the only thing that sit in this board since it started, I can guarantee, is change. And do you like it? No, I haven't liked it all. But I'm forced to live with it. And you've got an ideal 390 acres deal there, and everybody willingly sold your neighbors that you're complaining about. They willingly sold. As I understand, some are going to continue living in those houses until they're forced out. There's an agreement. And like Mr. Crone said, yeah, we don't have all the answers. And I wish we did, but somebody's not going to come in here and make a probably billion-dollar decision and let all their competition know what Dickens are doing. When we zone something light industrial or B3, we don't know what they're going to put in there, but we have to zone it so they can put it in. And I'll guarantee you one thing, all you guys that are running your mouth out there, might be rude that way, but that's the way it goes.
Bill.
Yeah,
Bill,
Bill,
it's okay. All right. We have 3 options. Our options are pass it along to the commissioners, a favorable recommendation, pass it along as a unfavorable recommendation, or no recommendation at all. So I will open the floor for a motion. And if we don't get a motion, then we can take a motion to table it.
I've said my piece from my judgment, and with that, I would like to make a motion that we forward a favorable recommendation for the PUD zoning request Z-25-01 to the commissioners.
I've also weighed in, and I would second that motion.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Brian, what was yours, Brian?
First.
Pardon me?
I on the first.
Oh, so the motion is 7-1. The motion passes. It will be passed on to the commissioners. The commissioners' meeting is the 18th. Correct?
I was kind of wondering, I've never been close to a data center. I don't
That's
know how
everything we
noisy
have
it
on our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? You guys want your staff reports? Laura, do you need a staff report to us? Would you like to have your attorney report to us? I will call for a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Kenny?
Oh, you made the motion.
Adjourned.